Hello everyone, today we have some amazing news. Finally, after all of these years, somebody's finally went out and stated the obvious. That meat is not causing cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and so on. That there is simply no strong evidence linking meat to these diseases. Now, anyone that's familiar with epidemiology and how flimsy of a science it is, and how all of this research showing that beef is bad links back to this shoddy epidemiology, would already know this. But finally, someone decided to actually make a research paper, 14 different scientists to be specific, and actually publish it out there. New York Times has picked up on it. Lots of different articles are spreading out the good word, finally, that there is simply no strong evidence linking meat to cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and so on. And there isn't. This is the truth. Now, all they really said was, hey, we looked at the data, we looked at the strong evidence from randomized controlled trials, we looked at the evidence from other weaker trials in epidemiology and so on, and found that the only time there was any sort of link, a weak one at that, was in the very, very low-grade studies using epidemiology, which is not a reliable means of finding evidence. That's all I really said. And it's true, epidemiology is very weak science. It's based on food surveys that are notoriously unreliable, and you can't really make any conclusions of them. And yet, so many experts did. And these experts are fuming. They are pissed off about this clear, obvious revelation. We have some experts saying that this is an egregious abuse of evidence. Some are even going so far as to try to delay the publication because they simply don't want to see the truth. And there's even a committee out there that's petitioning the FTC just because some people said, you know what, we don't really have enough evidence to know for sure. These supposed experts are even claiming that we can't accept this research. No. Not because it's true, not because it's false, because it is true, but because it threatens the credibility of nutrition science around the world. Really? What really threatens someone's credibility? Saying, hey, there's really not enough evidence, so we can't know for sure? Or when someone points that out to you, denying it, dismissing it, lying about it, being so pissed about it, instead of realizing and admitting that you were wrong. What is going to be worse for your credibility? Think about that for a second. And then they go on to say, oh, but we have all of these big organizations and all of the experts agree that meat causes cancer and diabetes and so on. Look, the World Health Organization said so. The American Cancer Association said so. On and on and on and on. Except these same organizations fell for the exact same weak evidence, jumped on the same board as all these other people, simply bouncing their research off each other and shaking their own hands and going, oh, yep, we must be right because we all agree with ourselves. It actually ruins their credibility even more, doesn't it? Because they all fall for the same lie. None of them, even for a minute, considered that maybe, just maybe, there isn't enough evidence to jump on this bandwagon, and maybe, just maybe, meat is actually really healthy and we shouldn't malign it based on very weak data from very unreliable sources. It's crazy how upset this has made the nutritionist world. I'm telling you folks, when you tell the truth to liars, they simply cannot handle it, no matter what, because they believe in the lie. And worse yet, they consider themselves to be the experts. They know it all and you can't tell them anything. So the minute you contradict them, that makes a cognitive dissonance that they simply cannot accept. They'd much rather dismiss you. They'd much rather insult you, call you names, and call you every single lie in the book, rather than admit they could possibly be wrong. Now let's relate this back to diabetes, right? Because this is tame type 1. I find that a lot of endocrinologists are the same way. You notice that a general practitioner typically isn't as opposed to a low-carb diet as many endos might be? That's because they're not told about diabetes, and they don't consider themselves experts on it. While the endocrinologist does. They have studied for years and years and years about diabetes and think they know it all. So they give you the advice of eating more carbs. You do, it doesn't work out, and then you come back to your doctor and say, "Doctor, hold on. This isn't working for me. I'm going to try going low carb." They go, "No, no, 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 you can't do that. You're going to get ketoacidosis. You're going to have too many low blood sugars. It's dangerous," and every other line in the book. Because they didn't learn it that way, and they automatically, because it goes against what they've learned, think it's wrong. And then, when later on you prove to them that works by having much better blood sugars, by having a much better A1C, you can show it to them in everything. And what would they do? Well, in a logical world, they'll say, "Hey, you know what? In light of this new evidence, in light of your better blood sugars, your better A1C, I'm going to reconsider this. Maybe I was wrong." Open-minded, humble people do that. But that's not what most of these endocrinologists do. Some of them, yes, they learn and they get better, and thank God for these people. But it seems like the majority don't. Instead, they ignore you, they dismiss you, they get angry and defensive and cling on to their dogma because they're the experts and they know it all. And you, with your Google and your YouTube videos and your random Facebook groups and all that nonsense, you can't possibly be right because they're the experts, and their ego will not let them admit they're wrong. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of science out there that really isn't scientific at all. There's a lot of experts out there that really shouldn't be considered experts at all. And because of their inflated ego, because they think they're so brilliant and smart, and they've done all this research for so long, and they paid thousands of dollars for their degree, and they just know everything, that they cannot possibly be wrong. And it turns out these are the enemies of real science. Real science means that you're willing to admit you're wrong. You're willing to admit that you made a mistake. These nutritionists, a lot of these endocrinologists, aren't willing to do that. So that's why it's important to take it into your own hands. That's why it's important to learn for yourself what it takes to tame type 1. That's why it's important to understand that meat is actually super duper healthy despite what these supposed experts claim. Because they're not saying that because meat is bad. Meat is very healthy. And all of the research not only doesn't disprove it, but many fields such as anthropology, biology, even just basic anatomy, prove that it is super healthy. They claim it does because that's what they've learned, because that's what they've been taught, because that's what they want to believe, because many of them are actually plant-based diet proponents or even vegans, and it just simply goes against their own ideological framework to ever admit they're wrong and ever admit that meat is healthy. Just keep that in mind as you tame type 1. Keep enjoying that meat. It's not going to give you cancer or heart disease or anything else. And do your best to find the healthiest way to eat. Not just based on expert testimony, which is flawed from the start, but also from your own experience and the experience of those like you. Thank you much. This is Justin, signing out.